Your rival Gary does not like to lose, so he came up with a game where even you cannot outthink him. In the middle of you there will be a group of flags, and the two of you take turns grabbing some away until the one to take the final flag becomes the winner. There is one special rule though. You are not allowed to take the same number of flags that your opponent just took on his previous turn. Let's see how that actually works in practice. Under normal circumstances, you are able to take anywhere from a minimum of 1 to a maximum of 5 flags away. But let's say Gary just took 4 flags and there are now only 4 left. Since you are not allowed to repeat him, you have to take a different number than 4. You could take 2. Now Gary is allowed to repeat you, so he has to take 1. This leads to a weird situation where you cannot do anything because you have to repeat him. To prevent the stalemate, it's decided you are always allowed to take the final flag and win if there's only 1 left at the beginning of your turn. With that, we can almost begin the game, but first we have to know how many flags are in the center. Gary decides on starting with 14 flags, but because he chose the starting number, you get to make the first move. You're both allowed to take up to 5 flags per turn, but cannot pass on your turn or repeat the other. The only time you're allowed to break this rule and repeat the other is if there's 1 flag left. Can you find the path to taking the final flag? Pause right now and get some pen and paper to help you, or let the video continue to find out the answer. Adding a rule that you cannot repeat your opponent seems like a small change, yet it adds a surprising amount of complexity. The reason for that is that the game has now changed from depending on only 2 variables to depending on 3. Without this rule, if someone asked us what the current state of the game was, all you could possibly need to know about who is winning or losing can be conveyed by stating 2 things: how many flags are left and whose turn it is. No matter who started, no matter how many turns it took to get there, if there are 2 flags left when it becomes your turn, you would win. But with this new rule, that is not enough. If there are 2 flags left, you might be able to take them both to win, but if Gary just took 2 as well, you're forced to take 1 flag. Normally he wouldn't be allowed to repeat you, but since 1 flag is the exception, it can always be taken and you will lose. The outcome of the game changes here depending on the previous turn, so it is a crucial piece of information and therefore the third variable of the game. So how do we use this insight? If there is just 1 flag remaining when it becomes your turn, you can always grab it. So we don't need to do anything fancy here and we'll just mark it with a check mark. But what do we write down with 2 flags? Here the situation does depend on the previous move. In most cases you will win, but if your opponent just took 2, you lose. Let's for now write what we call a forbidden 2 below it to remind us that this situation is winning unless we are not allowed to take 2. So what about 3 flags? Obviously we will win if we're allowed to take 3, but what if we're not? Taking 2 leaves Gary on 1, so that will lose, and taking 1 leaves him on 2. We had just written down that if someone starts with this number, he will win unless he's not allowed to take 2. Well, since we just took 1, not only can he just take both remaining flags to win, he's actually forced to. So we win if we're allowed to take 3, but lose otherwise, and we'll write a forbidden 3 below. So is 4 the same again? We can win by taking all 4, we will lose if we take 3, but what if we take 2? The forbidden 2 below it shows that Gary will lose there if he isn't allowed to take 2. We just did that, so he cannot copy us and will lose. This means that on 4 flags, we can win by taking all 4 flags and also by taking only 2. And since there can only be 1 previous move, if one of your winning moves is blocked, you can always play the other. That is not only the case with 4, but you will win every situation where there is more than 1 winning move. We don't need the forbidden number for it, and we can just mark 4 flags with a check mark. Let's see if we can also do this for 5 flags. Well, not really. We can win by taking them all, but in all the other options, Gary can just take the rest of them and win. If we continue to 6 flags, we cannot even take them all anymore. We can only win by leaving Gary in a losing position. Luckily, there is one. If we take 3, he's not allowed to repeat us on the next turn, and we also just left him on a forbidden 3. That means he loses if he's not allowed to take 3, so this is a winning move for us. These are the kind of situations we have to keep looking for. Taking 2 to leave Gary on a forbidden 2, or taking 3 to leave Gary on a forbidden 3. Situations where our move is the same as a forbidden number below the flags left. We don't have another way to do that here, so we will write a forbidden 3. So what can we do on 7? taking 5 leaves for forbidden 2, taking 4 leaves for forbidden 3, taking 3 leaves for checkmark, taking 2 leaves for forbidden 5, and taking 1 leaf for forbidden 3. There was no taking X leaves for forbidden X, so for the first time we have no way to win. To remember we always lose on 7 flags, we will mark this with a red cross. Now what about 8 flags? We have no take X leaves forbidden X, but we can just take 1. Since 7 flags always loses, just taking 1 is a winning move. With 9 flags we can also win by leaving Gary on 7, but it's not the only way to win. If we take 3 we leave Gary on a forbidden 3, and if we take 1 we leave him on forbidden 1. We even have 3 winning moves here and can write a check mark. 10 flags is similar to 9. We can take 3 to leave Gary at 7, and we can take 5 to leave Gary on a forbidden 5. We have 2 winning moves, so it's another check mark. With 11 flags, the only winning move is to leave Gary on 7 by taking 4 flags. And with 12 flags it's the same by taking 5. Now we're almost there. On 13 flags we can no longer leave Gary on 7, and we cannot put him on a forbidden number. Just like 7, 13 flags is a cross, meaning we've also found a way to win the game. Since we're starting on 14 flags, we can win by taking 1 flag, and that's also the only way to win. Now, even though we ended at 14, if Gary had decided on a higher starting number, we could have just continued the same process. On the numbers up to 18, we could have won by leaving Gary on 13, but at 19 flags there is only one way to win. Without doing all the checks, can you already see what this winning move has to be? The winning move has to be 3. The reason for this is you don't want to give Gary the chance to leave you at 13 flags. Taking 3 is the only way to prevent him from doing that, because he cannot repeat you. Luckily for us, he doesn't have another way of winning on 16, and we can counter him whatever he picks. For example, he could take 2, putting us basically back at the initial starting point. The only difference is we aren't allowed to take 2, but we didn't want to do that anyway. So we start the game by taking 1 and leave Gary on 13. Gary thinks he knows how to beat you, and decides to take 3 to prevent you from leaving him at 7. Since we know that 10 is a check mark, this doesn't matter to us, as there is at least one other way to win. As we had figured out before, we have to take 5 to leave only 5 remaining. This is a rough one for Gary. It feels like he's so close to winning if he could only take 5, but he cannot. He knows he's been outsmarted again and reluctantly takes 1. Not delaying the game any longer, you take the final 4 and are once again the winner with a 3-0 victory. Thank you for watching this video. This is the first set of riddles I made, and I intend to make a lot more. So if you like this kind of riddles or want to see how the channel evolves, please consider subscribing. It would help me out a lot.